Today, you are going to hear from the wealth protection lawyer who empowers women to build and protect wealth through entrepreneurship. Yep, you get to meet Toni Moore, trademark and business lawyer. We're going to get right into it right after this quick intro.
Whoa. Why y'all so happy?
You don't know? Sharvette Mitchell is on the radio.
It's time to get motivated, excited, and influenced. Why? It's the Sharvette Mitchell Radio Show, live from Richmond, Virginia. And now, here to motivate, excite, and influence you, Sharvette Mitchell.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sharvette Mitchell Radio Show, broadcasting live from the capital city of Richmond, Virginia, but heard all across the world wide web. Hey, dolls, hey, gents. Listen, we thank you for all of those that are joining us by live streaming. We know that all of the streaming platforms are building out the audiences and sending out notifications and saying, hey, the Sharvette Mitchell Radio Show is on, and bringing you all on in. And also, we cannot forget all of our podcast listeners that check us out in iTunes and Stitcher and all the places, all the things. And of course, those that hang out at Sharvette.com, where it's the easiest for you. We appreciate you joining us, where the goal of our show is to motivate, excite, and influence. And I promise you, today's guest is going to do just that. So this segment is brought to you by my sixth annual pop-up conference for women entrepreneurs is taking place live in the capital city of Richmond, Virginia, November 4th, 5th, and 6th. Guess what? Pre-sale tickets will drop this week, first to my VIP list, and then we'll let everybody else in on the deal. And so you want to grab your ticket during pre-sale because that's the lowest that they will be, and then they'll go on regular sale later on in the year. So we invite you to come to Richmond, Virginia, and be with us. Also, shout out to media sponsors. Swag Her Magazine. You may be watching this from their platform. Swag Her Magazine uses positive media and storytelling to create the narrative and mindsets around and recreate the narratives and mindsets around Black people, our communities, our businesses, and our organizations. Shout out to all those that are popping in. Hey, Carmen, thank you for popping in. Listen, Carmen commented earlier and said, "This show has my coach and my lawyer, so you definitely gotta check it out." And always, Betty Jean Stanley Mitchell holding it down, and all the rest of you that we see that are on that have not commented yet. So let's jump on in because I know you are ready to hear about wealth protection and trademarks and copyrights and all the fun things. So let me tell you a little bit more about our guest who is hanging out in the virtual studio, such a doll. I've met her in real life and like real person, actually met her. Sometimes we host guests and we haven't actually met them. So Toni Moore, Esquire, is an attorney and business strategist with over 20 years of business structuring, real estate, asset protection, and estate planning experience. For more than 15 years, Toni has created companies, restructured companies, developed and assessed corporate compliance plans to ensure compliance with applicable rules and regulations. And she has definitely been, I'm adding to this, definitely been a power source for small businesses, women in business, and all of that. We are excited to bring Toni Moore up to the stage. Welcome to the Sharvette Mitchell Radio Show. Hey, girl, hey.
Hey, girl, hey. Thank you for having me.
Oh, we are excited to have you. I'm getting some shout out and loves coming in from all across the web, all across the World Wide Web. And so I'd love to start with how you even got into law. Where did this come from for you?
Funny story, but long story short was that when I was in the 10th grade, I got a chance to go from the projects to Milton Hershey School. And prior to Milton Hershey School, I figured I was going to be a hairdresser and I was going to hook up with a drug dealer. That was going to be my daddy Warbucks, right? But when I went to Milton Hershey School, they had a career day and someone did a research on law and I was amazed and I was in love. I was like, you know what? When I grow up, I'm going to do all of the other things, but I'm also a lawyer as well. So that's what I really liked about just the flexibility of law. But more importantly, I just like the idea of being a mouthpiece, like helping other people with my mouth, because I have the gift of gab. And I've always thought that I knew what people needed to do. Even as a 10-year-old, I was directing grown-ups about how to live their life. So I was like, oh, I get paid to do that, to tell people what to do. Love at first sight.
Love at first sight. Wonderful. And Queena, definitely familiar. Thank you. Definitely from my Facebook group popping in, definitely familiar with Milton Hershey School. So thank you, Queena or Quinn. I might have said it wrong, but thank you for listening and commenting. And so let's certainly talk about, I want to jump in definitely around trademarks. We have a lot of viewers and listeners. And hey, LinkedIn, thank you, Vernon, for popping in, saying good stuff from LinkedIn. Viewers that are entrepreneurs, small business owners, dual owners. And so trademarks, copyrights, all these things sometimes confuse people. So I'd love for you to define, like, what is a trademark versus what is a copyright?
So I always do it kind of like a copyright is essentially what you create, like through creative works. If you're a poet, if you're a singer, a songwriter, lyricist, if you're an artsy person, if you take pictures, some stars have been amazed and shocked that, the photographer took the picture and then they sued them for, for using their picture that they took of them without their permission. So all of that is essentially a copyright. Think of contents, think of creativity. Something that has been created, right? That is a copyright. Something that is unique, that has been created. I hear a lot for over 20 years. I've solely practiced in the area of music law, and most of my musicians know, like, if they have a stanza, that there's no such thing as like the eighth note beat. Like, people like, well, it was less than 8 bars. It's like, it doesn't matter. If you created something as your content, you pretty much can tell people that, at the end of the day, I registered it and you can't use it. So the creativity is like a book, we're all creating courses, books, all of those should be under copyright.gov. That's C for content, copyright.gov. Trademark is think of it like a trademark. It's a mark that's letting people know who owns it. So so it's, and I tell people, like, I'm African-American woman, and I've told people, like, my ancestors have been marked by the master. They were, at one point, my ancestors were property and they were marked. Someone marked them. They knew which plantation they belonged to. Similarly, you are the master of your music, the master of your conference, the master of your program, the master of your makeup line, the master of your brand. I work a lot with celebrities, and their name, they're the master of that. I tell people, especially since we hear about Wild 'N Out and Nick Cannon, he was the creative worker, but he was not the creative owner. And the ownership manifests much, okay? When you have you have the ownership of that trade name, that service mark, that conference name, then other people can license it. That's where it's like, the beauty of the trademark. And I always tell my clients, once you own something, then you can leverage it. People think about influencers. That's nice. But once you reach a celebrity status in your brand, you don't want to be this influencer. You want other people to license your celebrity brand.
All right.
Yeah. So listen, like a trade name, trademark, whether it's a tagline, that's a T, trademark. You know what I mean? Think Tiffany's box, like the trade dress. I always think about Tiffany, how it comes across, and there's like, oh, that's a Tiffany box. And some people who aren't married, they get really excited because they think they got their engagement ring from that Tiffany box. Or Burberry, how we know that looks like, and Gucci, those are trade dress. Also with regards to the Apple Store, believe it or not, they filed a trade dress with regards to it. They said, this is our store. This is our uniqueness. This is how we differentiate ourselves. So instead of just being author, speaker, coach, minister, lawyer, then you pretty much name yourself. You identify yourself in a business so that when people hear it, the answer to who is you. So that's a trademark.
Toni Moore, Esquire, is dropping gems. Listen, you all should share this show out, share the podcast. If you're listening in the podcast version, share this out. If you're at Sharvette.com, we have Toni's full bio and information there, so make sure you connect. Okay, great. So a lot of times you've really dropped like the what. If there's someone saying, well, I'm a business coach, or I am a life coach, or I'm a grief recovery coach, why would I really need a trademark? Do I really need one?
So there's different levels to this business game. So and there's a lot of people who do not distinguish themselves. They're just a service provider. But when you want to be more than a service provider and you want to build a brand, like a business doesn't necessarily need a brand, but a brand definitely needs a business. So when you no longer want to be that service provider, or if you're creating a business that you can ultimately sell, I'm telling you, when I watched, I've been talking like this for a minute, but when I watched the Prophet, you're familiar with the Prophet, right?
Yes, yes.
Do you know he will buy into someone's business if he wants equity in their trademark? Then there's a couple of people who are like, I don't want to hustle forever. Like I started over 22 years, almost 23 years later. Thank God for good genes. You know what I mean?
Yes, you look good, doll.
Like 23 years ago, and I started in estate planning. And in estate planning, we're always talking about wealth and legacy and passing things on. And most of us are building a business, but we don't understand that if when we die, that business dies with us unless we have a brand. See, people, if you're going to be author, speaker, coach, lawyer, you want to create a brand that then you can pass on to your children via maybe a trust, a trust where it encapsulates all of your holdings, or you want to be able to sell. Without a brand, how are you going to sell a service-based business? Because people want you. But when you create a brand, then you have your business, your reputation, the assets, the niche, and the designs that are definitive. And those are sellable. So if you want to be author, speaker, coach, service provider, once you stop working, once you start putting out the sweat equity, then guess what? You're going to be forgotten. But if you create a brand that other people want to license and sell and buy equity into, now you're talking legacy wealth.
Ah, good. And so we hear the business strategists coming out. We hear the business strategists coming out. So I popped up Pat's comment here, need help with trademark. She has an amazing subscription line for teas, subscription line. So how someone that's saying I need help with trademark, how could they connect with you on that process?
Absolutely. Well, if you go to Tonimooreesq, literally Tonimooreesq, that's where I have my link tree. And then that's where you can see where we can work together with regards to it, especially if you need help. And sometimes people just need a question, and some people need like the full situation. And I can help either way with a question, a full situation, or even with regards to helping you license your trademark, like a celebrity.
all the things. All right. And so I know one question that comes up is, when do I need to start this process? I just got this idea, or when is a big question that's on the table.
So here's the thing. I'm a creative. Like, I'm a lawyer, but I am a creative. Ask all of my business coaches. They're like, what, Toni? You're always creating. Yesterday, one of them was like, you're going to have to choose one. I was like, I'll choose three, but at least three from like over 600, that's pretty amazing, right? Yeah. So when you're dealing with a creative, such as myself, I totally get it. When you're first getting started, you're not necessarily married to it. I always think of it like like if your brand was a man, you see some stuff, maybe you get a little, a lot of interest, and people always see you connected with that, but you're probably just dating it. And that's where you have the TM, because I was like TM is not just Toni Moore, but it's like trying to mark, like we try a man. Is this good? Is it a good fit? Do I want to, be committed to this for 6 years or longer, right? So when you're thinking, I still want to play around with different brands, and you're not committed, you don't want to put a ring on it per se, then it's like, you might want to just hold off. Because I have people, they're like, oh, Toni, I need this. And then it takes about 10 months for us to get the full, like from consultation to certification. It usually takes 10 months unless there's issues, right? And then it stands still for a little bit. But when people change their mind and say, oh, I'm no longer using it. Okay, well, if you don't use it, then you're going to lose it eventually, because the trademark is unlike a copyright. You have to continually use it, or it can get canceled out by someone else because they may have been trying that mark too, and you may have beat them to the punch, right? But when you know that this is it. Like with Legally Chic, I was like, oh my God. Prior to Legally Chic, between us is I probably did it like 7 times. Okay. And I was like, I don't really like it, but when I hit Legally Chic, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, And I told you I was a creator, so I did a couple more, but Legally Chic is like there, it's registered. I recently saw that somebody is doing a makeup line on Legally Chic, so I'm looking at them, you know what I mean? Not like I want to do a Legally Chic makeup line, but because that is my brand and there's 45 different ways, I'm now like, oh, okay, so I got the legal, they got the makeup. Let me snatch other assets because I don't want to get limited into just legal when we have the Legally Chic Academy and we have the online store, and workshops. You understand? So when you get a brand that you're like, oh my God, it was sicking me. It's almost like when I was dating my husband, I was like, yeah, he's cute, but I want to see what else is out there because I was really holding out for an investment banker. But when I realized that I really was attached to this, then I was like, you know what? I want to put a ring on it because I don't want anyone else to get any of the benefits of working with this man. And if you have that relationship with your business brand and you don't want anyone else to get moneygasms the way you get moneygasms and you want to be identified as the owner, the ring owner of this brand, then that's when you register it.
Oh, like you said so much, like right there. You all need to like, comment, and share right now. Hanging out here with Toni Moore, Esquire, just dropping gems, snatching your edges, all about trademarks, brands, all of that. Connect with her. Information is on the screen. You can screenshot it. If you're at Sharvette.com, you can link out. So let me go back because you said so many good nuggets there. So it is a 10-month process, provided there's no issues and all. So this is not something that I'm going to do this and you're going to have it next week. And yeah, I'm seeing comments come in, put a ring on it. So we got to always, share the analogies that relate to people. Yep. Toni M. Winston. Yes. Okay. This is, rated, whatever's rated. This is reality radio here. All right. So it's a 10-month process. So sometimes I will see people that will come up with a name and then say, okay, I'm going to go trademark it. But if it hasn't been used or there hasn't been anything done with it, can they or should they still do that if they feel strongly that they're going to keep this name?
Absolutely. If they have a name, you definitely need to register the brand, right? Because of the fact that if you don't register it, you do have a right, you have a common law right to it. Mm-hmm. But a common law right is like a common law husband, is that unless you have like certifications, then back in the day before I got married, they used to say, well, I don't see a ring on it. And that's the same thing with your trademark, is that sometimes, and someone recently contacted me, was like, well, I was under the understanding that if I use the TM, no one else can use it. No, TM is just letting people know that you have an interest in it. But there's a lot of people who can have an interest in a common law brand, and but you don't know who else. And while we're talking about trademarks, can we just talk about the commonality of a trademark? Like yes, because sometimes, like if somebody comes to me and be like, oh, Toni, I want to use I Trust God. That is so common. You have to understand the balance when it comes to trademarking. It's the balance between everyone's common law right to say whatever we want and your right to distinguish your brand. So if you have a generic brand, the likelihood is it's not going to be registered. It's going to get rejected because it's too generic, like refrigerator, tow, author, speaker, coach, divorce coach, that's so generic. Even if you do something that's descriptive, like Black Mom's brand, you know what I mean? That's descriptive. Now you can distinguish something that's descriptive, but that's a segue. That's a loophole to it, right? But ideally, you're not doing something that's generic. You're not doing something that's just describing, like Black Lawyers Club, describing, because other people can say those words. You want to get to the point where you're distinctive. We call it fanciful, like getting fancy, even if you can coin the phrase with regards to it. That way, that nobody else is using it but you. Now, you may get disappointed in knowing that there may be someone out there. That's why our firm, we always do a trademark clearance search, because under the rules, it may be disrespectful, but it's not illegal for people to monetize an unregistered brand, because you want to know. You want to be like, dude, if you was using it, why didn't you just put your money where your mouth is so we can all know that your brand is out there? But that it's not against the law in the United States. Now, in other countries, they like, don't play it. You know what I mean? But sometimes people get in love with generic brands like Urban League, Urban Ministry, Black Boutique, people were doing Black Lives Matter, then they were getting rejected. Then other people were doing COVID-19, and so many people get rejected. And I always use this as a descriptor when sometimes I have a client who's not getting it. I'm like, think of, how the domains are like real estate. A domain is like a virtual real estate, but think of a trademark as a building. And there's 45 different levels of this building, because we always talk about vertical integration in business, So, and for 20 years, I was like also a business law professor. So excuse me when I get a little technical, but it's fine. But with regards to each of the building levels and trademark world, there's 45 different floors. So if we said something like, I don't know, Black equity, because that's what I was playing around with. And let me just tell you, I was so mad because there is somebody sitting on Black equity. It's not registered, but I'm looking at the .com like, yo, you wasted land. You know what I mean? Yes. I want to put a brand on it, a branded building. Yeah. So we use Black equity. One of the floors could be makeup if I really wanted it to be. It also could be another floor, and these are all different type of international classes. So you know what, Sharvette, you might as well just take this down. They get all this, then you snatch it down, and then they got to get the power of the replay. But I feel like teaching in my spirit today. Okay,
go ahead. So y'all are getting nuggets and drops coming here.
With the 45 different classifications, it can go from literally from makeup. It can go for online store, that's 35. It can go from conferences, that's 41. I have a lot of therapists, that's 44. God girl brands or self-esteem, that's 45. If you have applications or if you have a software, that's international class 9. If you or even if you have like an online magazine, 9, which is different than a regular magazine, which is 41, which is different than an online store magazine with advertising, which is 35. So there's so many different ways that you can brand your store, your virtual building, your branded building. But if we're doing Black equity, and I just did Black equity and say like a podcast, that's I'm only either on floor 9 or floor 41. So if someone else wanted to do Black equity with regards to a makeup line, then you know what, they will go on to floor 3. But if somebody said, oh, I want to do Black equity with regards to self-esteem and women's self-worth, then they'll be on the 45th floor. So when you're looking at
all of them can have a trademark. All of them can have a valid trademark.
But I do have some clients who are like, I don't want anybody on this in this building, so they will stack the floors. Or they'll have a consortium and they all get together. And so the Black equity branded building could be part of one big, happy Sharvette Mitchell platform, holding company where you have limited partnerships. See, that's one thing that we don't talk about with the power of the equity in our trademarks and our copyrights with regards to limited partnership, and how we can then turn around, because most people are in the beginning are saying, I don't want anybody to use it. And I'm like, you restrict, right? So that you can get the revenue. But at the end of the day, if you replicate how many people are receivers of that, then they can buy into your branded building.
Oh, okay. Listen, the comments are coming on in. I just had to stick this here, Pat. Again, T-Line, since she had the other question. If you have an LLC, can you add another company under your LLC, or should you start a new LLC? So a little bit different than trademarks, but if you want to comment on that, I just wanted to show that.
Yes. So a limited liability company, it gets a bad rep because they're like, oh, I'm told I need an INC, but a limited liability company, you can also organize it as a managed company where it's your LLC is managing the company of another company. So it could be LLC1, and LLC1 now is the governing manager of LLC2. So you can have that, just know that when you're doing manage run, think of it in terms of parent subsidiary. So anything that company 2 does, if there's an issue, is also going to go to the company 1 as well, because the manager is the one who's also supposed to monitor, right? But with regards to it, you can also even have investors. You can have a limited liability partnership or limited partnership, right? Or with regards to it, this is I love is that you can also have like individuals also buying into it with equity. Like just because they're members, you can set up different levels of membership. It can be like 2-year membership. Let's see what you do. Let's see what you bring to the table. You know what I mean? They can also have different sort of subscription agreement where they buy into a certain amount, but they maybe don't have all of the control. So, in the beginning, that's why I'm always like up level. We start, but you're not supposed to be entree forever. Eventually, you have to start thinking like a business owner and up level into that state, and then start thinking like a boss, a badass woman slaying everything, and you go into that state, and then you start thinking, oh, well, let me think about equity and partnerships, and you go into that state and distributions and things of that nature. But that's the business of, with regards to just understanding that so much law is throughout business. That's why I'm like, you can't necessarily separate it. Even when I was in law school, like I graduated in 98, so you'll do the math. But it was like, I'll never forget Marina Angel always said that business was like law was like a jealous mistress. Once you get entangled into her, once you say I do to business, you already have a relationship with law. Okay.
Wonderful. Listen, pause right there. Pat, number one, Pat, absolutely. You need to schedule a consultation with Toni. Those that are watching and listening, I'm seeing, oh, wows. Oh, yes. Dr. Paula is saying, oh, yes. Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Ms. Dixon said, this is great. Hey, Rita, thanks for popping in. So we invite you to jump over to her links, schedule consultations, and you have a couple different services. And also, I think what you're saying and the different next level things that you're saying, bring out a point that I had in my notes of this is why you want legal guidance and you don't want to try to fumble around and Google this stuff, you guys. You want to hire someone. And Toni, I hired Toni for my trademark. Thank you. Pat said I will email her, connect. And I know Carmen is here, and you've done some work with Carmen. And so what are all the types of services, I would say, for entrepreneurs that are hanging out? You could definitely have Trademark. I saw you have a package that you're doing as well.
Yes. So we pretty much, I tell people literally from startup to succession planning with regards to it, depending on the different states, we can even set up your trust and estate work as well. But literally from startup to succession planning in business, that's definitely something that we do. We help with regards to sales. We have, individuals who are buying other people's businesses, so sales, equity, due diligence work. I have a number of partners with regards to business partners, and also with regards to accountants, even a banker. And we also have someone who is, she helps people with alternative financing, because in business you need to get the finances right, and you need to appreciate the legal, but then the cash flow makes the money grow, right? So that's what I pretty much do. From literally, like, for me, business is to me, our business is our most valuable asset with regards to building wealth. Like, I came from trauma, but I was like, that's my beginnings, but it's not my hook. So when I started making money in business, I was like, oh, is this how they doing it? You know what I mean? I pretty much get a chance to sell my solutions, and I essentially stopped being an adjunct professor, because I was like, I want to work with people who need this information so that they can make their assets grow. And when you make your assets grow, then you can hire other people, especially women in business. We tend to hire more people. We tend to think about our family, our community, our churches. We tend to always think about even bringing in other people, because I'm a beneficiary of somebody bringing me into their family. You know, even though I wasn't birthed to them, I was born to them, I was pretty much their family. And so when we're thinking about business, even with the conversation now is with regards to equity, diversity and inclusion, I'm like, you still need permission. But when you get equity, you know, but yeah, regardless of what anybody thinks of you or the skin color, or how you look or how you smell, once you bring money to the table, even my Bible tells me that money answers all things.
Yes,
so I'm like, okay, so how do we make our money grow? And I'm a God girl. And, you know, in Ecclesiastes 11:2, he told me to have 7, if not 8 streams. So that is really letting me know that I'm supposed to be fruitful and multiply. I'm supposed to have more money, more money. And not only that, but it answers all things, because money, like wisdom, is a protector, right? So once I started to commit to that, I've been saying, oh, this is how women are going to be able to be financially secure. Just like my biggest scripture, like 3.5 years ago, my 90-year-old soon-to-be father-in-law told me about Jeremiah 31:22, where God is like, how long are you going to suffer? I'm trying to do a new thing where a woman is encircling a man. That like shifted my whole situation. I went from damsel in distress to like future millionaires. And I've always been in business because I always wanted to know, how do us broke sisters get from the projects and the Section 8 and the affirmative action babies to the other side of the street? And I realized that, one, our self-worth will never outgrow, our net worth will never outgrow our self-worth. And when we're in business, I'm like, oh my God, we can totally, I mean, at one point, $500 as an adjunct professor, I'm teaching 10, 20 students getting $500 a month after taxes and all that other stuff. Then I discovered business. What? They was like, Toni, can you teach this class again? No, ma'am. No, sir. You know what I mean? Now I get it. Oh, well, 20 years later, but you know, I'm just like, oh, so I just want y'all all to remember the accoutrements to success is always a business, because here's the thing. In this world that we live in, United States, money flows with the business. You can get business credit with the business. You know what I mean? You can get a whole bunch of stuff. You can get business investors with the business. You got the right business and people want a piece of it, you can get an equity deal with your business. So you got to have a business. And then you have to be down with like understanding the wealth principles. When I'm sitting in the team with the wealth principles, estate planner, attorney, you have the account, the broker, whether it's a real estate person or an investment broker, and you have the insurance. Sometimes we wear different hats, you know, like I don't really talk about on the tax side of my life because I got an accountant for that, but I'm smart enough. I tell people all the time, financial statements look like, because the U.S. government for 15 years trained me to be a senior fraud investigator, and we're always following the money. So I know the numbers, I know the securities, I know the EBITDA, you know what I mean? I know where the money grows and what we need to do. I just decided to package it all up to help us up level, because we can't stay at the entree. If we're not getting certified, then how are we going to become our ancestors' dreams? You know,
that's good. Listen, Carmen said you better give them verses today. She doing verses, bars, lines, everything. Listen, I want to honor your time. The time that we asked for, we want to honor it. I do see a question of saying what is included in the package. So I know there is a trademark package, but then there is another package or whatever you have that you're offering currently. Share with the people.
Yes. So there is a package. It's called Legally Boss. It's probably going to be changed to TM Mastery, but it's still Legally Boss. And that's where we help people with their trademark and their copyright. We help them with 5 of the, you can pick one of the 5 of the template contracts with regards to it. And it also includes our trademark, not a trademark, but it's really a business law conversation that we have. And that's something that right now I charge like $750 for. I was like, I need to start charging more money, but all this stuff. But it's like really good information, because remember, for 15 years, I was a senior fraud investigator. So I just was like, okay, if I was doing an investigation of this company, what am I looking for? And so that's always in the back of my head with regards to if you ever get investigated, what are we going to look for? And if there's ever a lawsuit, what's the evidence that we can prove that to keep make sure that at the end of the day, you get a chance to maintain your assets. So that's, so it's called, right now it's called Legally Boss, but don't be confused if you see in April, it's called TM Mastery.
All right, wonderful. And the best way for them to connect with you on social media and also make a call to have a consultation.
Absolutely. And Toni Moore, ESQ, Toni Moore, ESQ, that's where I am on social media. Or you can go to Tonimooreesq.com, and that's where you have access to the link tree and even a guide or even to connect with me.
All right, wonderful. Last question for you. The goal of my show is to motivate, excite, and influence. And we want to know what continues to motivate Toni.
One of the things that continues to motivate me is knowing that it's not our beginnings. We're not stuck in our beginnings. So what continually motivates me is that, guess what? The sky is my ceiling. So as long as I can keep on imagining bigger, better, and more, as long as I can imagine myself outside of the rubric of what I place myself into, then guess what? I'm always trying to what I call up level. Like, well, what else do I need to do to become the woman of my dreams? What else do I need to do to make more money? What else do I need to do so I don't feel like I'm the broke chick who nobody loves or cares for or respects? What else do I need to do? So I'm always motivating myself to be the best version of myself.
So well said. Toni, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for pouring my last book collaboration, pouring into the audience. And I encourage the audience to connect with you, connect any questions that we did not get to answer. That is a great prompt to reach out to her. Follow her on all the social media networks. We tagged on Facebook, we tagged on Instagram and all the things. So thank you for stopping by the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh boy, our time is up. Thank you again for just hanging out with us here on the Sharvette Mitchell Radio Show. If you're brand spanking new to me, I'm Sharvette Mitchell, and I work with female entrepreneurs and a few lucky men that get sprinkled in to help them build their online platforms and personal brands so that they generate more revenue. And certainly this conversation around protecting our wealth, growing our wealth, and thinking on the next level is all something that we want to bring to our audience. And I'm very focused on your marketing and your visibility and your branding. And this show is one of those outlets and one of those platforms. So check us out at Sharvette.com. That's the main website for the Sharvette Mitchell Radio Show. You can, because I know you need to hear this again. You need to see this again, right? And thank you for those that are checking this out on YouTube and other places. And so go back. Sharvette.com is the easiest way. You can just send someone there to say, you need to hear this. You need to hear Toni Moore. You need to reach out to her and get your business protected and your trademark protected and all that good stuff. Thank you again for all of the comments and everything that everyone just popped on in. I know there's so much we could keep going, but I like to honor people's time. Plus we got to leave a little bit of a cliffhanger for you guys. So reach out to Toni and connect. And that is a wrap for the Sharvette Mitchell Radio Show. We'll see you all later on the web.
Live from Richmond, Virginia, you've been listening to the Sharvette Mitchell Radio Show. Catch Sharvette Mitchell every Tuesday at 6 p.m., interviewing all the stars you want to hear from. So until next week, stay motivated, excited, and influenced. This is the Sharvette Mitchell Radio Show.